Hey everyone, this is Frequently Missed Questions Explained from Chapter 8. And just as a reminder, this quiz is not due until 11:59 tonight, so I'm working with what people are missing so far. This may not be super up to date if you haven't completed the quiz yet. Okay, so our first question here is a 12-person jury is deliberating on a murder trial. 11 members of the jury want to vote guilty and convict the defendant. Only one juror wants to vote not guilty. The holdout juror, Henry, digs in and will not change his mind. According to research, what is the best prediction for how the rest of the group will react to Henry's deviance? So the correct answer here, the one that got the top amount of answers, they will eventually come to ignore him and try to punish him by being generally unpleasant toward him. This is true in this situation because our holdout juror is really a minority. He's 1 out of 12 here. And if you can kind of picture yourself in that room, what would happen would be that our holdout juror will probably not change his mind no matter what the other people are saying to him or about him. And so they're just going to ignore what he's doing and go with what the majority is doing, and behave that way. So they're not going to necessarily be directly unpleasant toward him. Like, they may not yell at him, they may not tell him to change his mind outright, but they may like physically angle their bodies away from him, stop listening to what he's saying, interrupt him. That kind of general unpleasantness is what they're talking about there. If this vast majority is happening, like in this example, he's pretty outnumbered in terms of people on his side. So they're probably not going to try and change his opinion using idiosyncrasy credits. They also probably won't use minority influence to change his mind, because using minority influence means that he would be changing the mind of the entire group. And then that last answer there, they will come to appreciate his principled stand the longer he holds out in defiance of their claims. That won't work out either. Unfortunately, they're just going to be generally unpleasant toward him because he's not conforming to the majority. The foot in the door technique, there was a little bit of confusion about which foot in the door and door in the face, so I'll cover both of those. The foot in the door technique capitalizes on people's desire for self-consistency. Now, we learned about self-consistency when we were talking about cognitive dissonance. It is really important for people to be consistent and act consistently with what they already believe. And if they don't act consistently with what they already believe, then they'll change their beliefs because that's easier than changing actions a lot of the time. So foot in the door technique, if you guys remember, foot in the door is from the expression comes from salesmen. So the idea is that if a salesman can get their foot in the door, then you're not going to slam the door, meaning you're not going to buy or not buy anything from him. So the foot in the door technique is where you get somebody to agree to a smaller, less imposing thing or buy something that costs less, and then when you go back later, they're more likely to buy from you or commit to some larger thing. So it does capitalize on people's desire for self-consistency. When the second request comes from the same person as the first request, it's a stronger association, but it also works when there's two different people. So there are some sales teams that go in and have a first salesperson have you agree to some small claim, and then the second person will come and ask you for the larger thing, and you're more likely to agree if you have already met with that other salesman, but it's a little bit trickier because they don't seem to be connected that way. So again, the reason this works is people like to be consistent. And if they've already agreed to do something for you, maybe they like you or like your message or something like that, and they are more likely to do something else for you in the future. The door in the face technique, that's when you ask for something really big where they know the person will probably say no, and then in your second request you go back and ask for something more reasonable or actually what you wanted, and they're more likely to agree to it then. And this works because people have a norm of reciprocity, meaning that when you don't want to say no twice to somebody. If they're asking for something smaller the second time, you're more likely to be like, oh, okay, I'll do this smaller thing. I couldn't do that first one, but I can probably do this second one. Whereas if you would have just had that second request all by itself, you probably wouldn't have gone with it. Um, I'm going to share a story with from one of my students. She said that it was okay to share this story. This happened in class a couple of years ago. She brought it up and shared it with everybody, so I'll share it with you guys. She uses the door in the face technique all the time with her parents. Apparently, parents are helping her out financially, that kind of situation. And she will always ask for something really huge at the beginning of the month. And then about 5, 6 days later, when her parents have come back and said, no, that's ridiculous, then she says, well, can I at least have money for groceries? That kind of situation. So apparently she doesn't do this anymore. She started to feel guilty about it. But I just thought that may help you guys, this concept sort of stick for you. Think about the girl that took my close relationships class a while ago. All right, this next question is looking at informational social influence, and these next two questions are both from Blackboard, and actually they're covering the same topic. For some reason, there was some confusion about the difference between informational and normative social influence, so we're going to talk about both of these when we talk about the next two questions. So this question reads, in the 19th century, audience members who knew the opera intimately served as, I have no idea how to pronounce that, or experts that signaled others in the audience when to applaud. Or as, still can't pronounce it, who signaled when to call for encores. These experts served as a source of blank for less sophisticated audience members. So the correct answer here is informational social influence. And the reason that informational social influence is the correct answer is the audience members who are less sophisticated, they don't know when to applaud, they don't know when to call for encore. They're going to be sort of looking around at everybody else to see what's the correct thing to do in the situation. It's not normative social influence because they don't necessarily want everybody to look at them and love them and seek approval from everybody else, which you'll see a little bit in the next example here. Just as a side note, they do still do this a lot of times. There's a lot of times people that are planted in the audience that serve as starting the clapping or requesting things like that. I just thought that was sort of interesting that they do still do this. It's a little bit less obvious than before. Oftentimes, if you're looking out into like a large crowd, they're on the back left from the speaker's perspective. I don't know really why that's the industry standard, but I have somebody that does large crowds a lot of times, and they often put their plants right there in that back left corner. Okay, so this next question here, we're going to tease apart the difference between the informational social influence and the normative social influence a little bit in this example. This is also from Blackboard. So this question reads, all of the following are examples of informational social influence except. So these first three are examples of informational social influence. They're when the person is unclear about what to do and they sort of look around to everybody to figure out what the norm is. So if you're running a race and you wait to check which of the two roads the other runners follow, or you've just started working a new job and the fire alarm goes off, you watch your coworkers to see what to do, or if you ask your advisor which classes you should take next semester, that one's a little bit more direct. But you're still getting information from that other person. The one that is not informational social influence, this is an example of normative social influence, is you decide to lose weight because the people you see on the covers of popular magazines are thinner than you and you want people to like you more. So this is an example of normative social influence because your drive here is you want people to like you, and you're not necessarily looking for approval from the people that are directly surrounding you in the moment. But like for your example here, your covers of popular magazines are your reference for what you want to look like. So that's not necessarily, that's different than if you're running a race and you're waiting to see where the runners go, or you're at a new job, you're in the room, you're getting your information from different sources. Okay, that is actually the end of today's slideshow, and we didn't have a whole lot of questions from Blackboard, only because the trend was that we were having trouble with informational versus normative social influence, so I wanted to cover that a little bit. Good luck on your test. Remember that you guys have an extra 10 minutes on this test and on the next test. And let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks.